Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tinmans Court channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tinman Taylor. And today, like I promised at the end of my Batman movie ranking, I said I was going to rank the Ghostbusters film franchise. So, as of right now, they only made 5 Ghostbuster films, but I heard they were going to make another one pretty soon. But I haven't heard any news or updates on that film yet. So, for now, I'm just going to rank the ones that we already have out there so far. So, like I did with the other movies, I'm going to rank them from my least favorite all the way up to all-time favorite Ghostbuster films. So, my least favorite, which would be at number 5, and that's the Ghostbusters remake with the women in it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a good film, but it was just too comedic, which is a good thing, but in this case, they made Chris Hemsworth act more like a dumb-minded individual, and I just really didn't like that. And, I mean, that's the only bad thing I had wrong with this film. The effects were good, but let me get back to what I was saying about the comedic writing in here. Like, they made the mayor and his female assistant stupid. Even the 2 FBI agents that came to arrest them was agreeing with everything they said. Like, you just brought the cat out of the bag, and they just said, I think they were trying to say we let the cat out and we're trying to put it back in the bag, and then they just kept going on with that. I was like, oh my God, this is stupid. But in this film, they really had to go far with, like, the people hating the Ghostbusters because they think this whole ghost chasing stuff was fake. And they had a deleted scene, which you probably could see on certain TV channels, and you could probably watch it on DVD if you click on the deleted scenes or something, where a guy was following them with the phone, pretty much heckling them, until Kristen Wiig's character had enough and punched him. But that scene where the guy who was a janitor at a hotel created these portals to bring ghosts out and have this big, gigantic wormhole for them to come out of the building with, was really dope. But it's kind of stupid to make all the soldiers, police, FBI agents outside surrounding the building freeze like this with their heads down. Like, if you're going to try to make them sleep or not move towards you, you should have just went, like, pushed them with the ghost blast or whatever and make them fall asleep and knock over, instead of just acting like they're in the dance move type thing. And plus, when Chris Hemsworth was playing the guy that inhabited his body, I kind of agree with what he said, where he said this guy was making him more stupider every minute. I was like, yeah, kind of is. And plus, when he's flying like Peter Pan, I was like, come on. I was hoping they would make a sequel off of this one, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think all the women that was on this movie got a little upset about that because they're really hoping to do another one. But like with Hollywood and remakes, they just sometimes don't work out and they just end up scrapping the whole project. Number 4 pick, we have Ghostbusters 2. Again, it's a cool classic, but I just didn't like it as much like the first movie because Sigourney Weaver's character is not dating Bill Murray anymore, and she got married and had a kid, but the guy that she married left her. Bill Murray tries to patch things up with her, but she was like, just help me out with this ghost problem, and like try not to ask her out on dates anymore. But later on they do get back together. But anyway, I didn't like that whole professor character that's in the art museum that Sigourney Weaver works at. He acts so mysterious and creeps people out. I mean, he gave me the creeps all the time I seen him. And the fact that he's working with Rigvo, son of Carpathia, whatever that guy's name was, really wanted to take a baby and transfer his soul into him just so he can reborn himself, basically. I was like, oh my God, that's just crazy. Who would do that to a kid? I mean, that made me mad right there. But it was kind of funny when Spangler, Ray, and Winston were down in sewage tunnels, and a ghost train came through, went right through Winston, but he asked him, did you catch the number of the locomotive? And he said, sorry, I missed it. But it really freaked me out when I saw all those heads on the spikes and they were running around in circles looking at him, and they closed their eyes and they were gone. I was like, golly, imagine that being in a haunt attraction, right? But I just didn't like how the mayor won't listen to him in this film, because he listened to him in the first film, but he was starting to think that these guys were nuts to begin with. Also, I really didn't like that new assistant of the mayor. I thought he was worse than the other guy who was in the first movie as a environmental specialist guy, because this guy was really trying to keep the Ghostbusters away from the mayor and wanted them locked up forever because he thought that they were insane as well, but more so than the mayor thought. But I was glad towards the end the mayor fired him and got the Ghostbusters out of the insane asylum, and they were able to destroy that Carpathian type king. But my favorite scene out of this one was when they were doing the experiment with that slime, and they made it bubble up, but then when they poured it in the toaster, it started dancing with the music and then popped out some toast. But I surely, for one, don't want to eat that toast. Because you never know, some of that slime got into the heating elements to heat the bread up, you know. But it was also funny just to see Peter Venkman put his fingers into the thing and act like it was biting him. But then he said, the old toaster biting trick works, and then they all started attacking him. I was like, yeah. Almost like if you were in a college dorm room. Still a good classic, but it was just not one of my favorites. All right, number 3, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This takes place after the events of Ghostbusters Afterlife. And all the people that were down in Oklahoma, Egon Spangler's daughter and grandchildren, Paul Rudd's teacher character, and 2 of their friends go up to New York to be with the original Ghostbusters. And now Paul Rudd and Spangler's daughter and grandkids are now Ghostbusters, trying to capture ghosts again in New York, while Ray went back to his cult shop with podcast, and Winston is running Ghostbusters Corp, and they open up another facility in an abandoned aquarium to really study ghosts and make new equipment. Which I said, I'm glad he's doing it, because back when he first started in Ghostbusters, they didn't have enough money to even get new equipment made. They just had the stuff they already had. And I'm glad that they also got a new scientist dude that helps them out with new gadgets. He almost reminds me of another Egon Spangler, because he's wearing glasses just like his. But they also introduced another evil entity in this movie, where he likes to freeze up everything. He's like a ancient god with horns. You make him mad, he'll freeze you up. But they introduced this guy who is a fire master. So it was passed down from generation to generation. But when he got to him, he didn't think none of that stuff was serious. He started selling off a bunch of his mom's artifacts, including the orb that had this ghost in it. And once Ray and Podcast and the other Ghostbusters messed with it, the orb just broke apart, and that evil entity got out and went to that man's apartment and found his horns and put them back on his head. And they had to grab him just to train him how to use his Fire Master flame abilities, just so they can recapture this dude. Evie becomes friends with a ghost girl in this film, which she died of fire because you can see a lot of flames just around her. She always likes to smoke and play with matches. But she found out that her new ghost friend betrayed her by teaming up with this frozen ice ghost, and he promised her that she would be freed and into the afterlife once she gets done helping him release the other ghost. But then she betrayed him and lit her final match and let the Fire Master guy throw it up on him, and Evie took one of the proton packs and covered the circular cylinder thing, brass, and once it's activated, it shot a laser coated with that brass stuff, and it hit him and weakened him. And the old Ghostbusters had to activate the old ghost trap chamber, and it sucked him down in there. I said, yeah, that's definitely going to hold him for a while. But I hated that the mayor in this one was that guy from part 1 who was the environmental specialist, and he took all of their old proton packs and melted them down. But luckily, they were able to save the day, and Winston was able to convince the mayor to recognize them as heroes. But Winston's scientific dude made new proton packs that have a yellow bar across the back of them, so I said, they don't have to worry about the old ones, they got new ones now. But yeah, I love the plot of this film. It was a good sequel off of Afterlife, so I can't wait to see what they film next to go off of this one. Alright, number 2 spot is the original Ghostbusters. I know what you're thinking, this should be higher on my list, but Ghostbusters Afterlife is, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But anyway, the visual effects were not as good as the later films, I get it, but it was back in the 80s. They had to work with what they had. But also, it's good for like a Ghostbusters origin film and how they became Ghostbusters. We did not get to see Egon make the proton packs, but once they go on their first call, and he said, I should have field tested these. And they switched them on for the first time and make that warming up noise. It was really awesome. And I think my favorite ghost that was brought up in this film was the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Because it's funny just to see Ray's reaction to it coming down the street. Because he was trying to think of something innocent, not hurt him. Well, think again. That ghost lady was able to take that Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and make him evil and just stomp on anything in his path. I love the storyline where Peter Venkman meets Dana Barrett for the first time, and he thought that she was crazy or nuts because he opened up the refrigerator and wasn't nothing there that she was claiming to have seen. But then she's the one that gets attacked first by a demon dog sent by Gozer and becomes the gatekeeper. But so far I don't have nothing bad against it, because this is a classic film that will stand the test of time no matter how many sequels they make. And I thought that what they were sounding, they were going to actually die in this movie, but they didn't, because they crossed streams with their proton packs and caused Gozer's door to close and make the Marshmallow Man burst into flames and drop out of the sky like liquid marshmallow. But it was satisfying to see that environmental guy out in the street covered in that stuff be like, that's what you get for messing with the Ghostbusters. But anyway, my number 1 pick is Ghostbusters Afterlife. After I saw the teaser trailer for this movie, and they showed the Ecto-1 that was covered up, and the wind picked up the cover to show it again, I was like, oh, yes, the original Ghostbusters are coming back. Well, Dan Aykroyd shows up in the middle of the film when Evie's talking to him on the phone, but then him and the other guys show up towards the end to help out Evie and other young Ghostbusters. And plus, Evie's the granddaughter of Egon Spengler, and he was killed trying to stop Gozer from coming back into Oklahoma. terrorize the world again. And that was a good plot device because Harold Ramis already passed away and they didn't want to recast him with somebody else. But they paid tribute to Harold in this one, which is a tearjerker to say the least. I got upset when the lady playing his daughter hugged him in this movie and he lifted up in the stars like he was going to heaven. And they showed for Harold on the screen. I was like, man, that really hit hard. But it was just so cool that they have Egon's ghost help Evie fix the proton pack of his to get it working again. But then he also helped his grandson work on the Ecto-1 to get that started again. But I hated that when he was taking it out for a drawer ride, he had to go through a cornfield and jumped over it onto the road, and it landed so hard I thought the whole front suspension was all out of whack. But luckily those cars were built tough back in the day and they could take a beating. Makes you wonder if, since Winston got into finance, they flew all down there on his private jet. Because there ain't no way you could go through airport security with them other proton packs of theirs. And just to see Venkman say, light them up, and they turned on their proton packs for the first time, and they were like, and Winston went like, man, I like that sound. It was like, oh yeah, they're back. And just to see the kids driving in the Ecto-1 trying to chase the other ghost muncher that looks like Slimer, but he has more limbs, and he just munches on any metal thing in his path. It was really cool. And the fact that Egon took the time and added a gunner seat in the Ecto-1 was a huge upgrade for sure. But yeah, this is a great sequel to the first two movies. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my ranking of the Ghostbusters franchise. And if they make more films, I will rank those as well. I'm just end up making a whole new list. This has been another successful installment of the Tinman's Cool Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tinman Taylor. I say that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.